All right, Colts Nation, it's time to get into this linebacker room. There is not too much after Zaire Franklin in terms of experience and provenness and knowing what we were going to get besides special teams or, being a solid rotational piece or just a backup or, just that. It's a pretty rough room after Zaire Franklin, and that's something I worry about a little bit. I do think Jaylon Carlise has some upside. I think he can maybe be a solid player, but very small sample size last year, not enough to really know if he could come in and be a solid piece, but we will see. So Luby is a guy I don't want to see out there too much, playing linebacker. One year he played a little bit. He played just over just a little bit over 100 snaps, had a couple solo tackles, had 6 missed tackles, and not a lot of playing time, and just wasn't too promising. But maybe a couple years later, he comes in and he could be something special, learning a couple of years later. You never know. Then you have Cameron McGrone, Joe Bacci, Jacob Phillips. We have a couple guys here that we're going to continue to go through here, but we're going to start with Zaire Franklin. A lot of people like to talk about Zaire Franklin and say that he's loud and, they don't like that and the podcast is an issue. I get that. But you also have to take a step back and look. He's a tackle machine. And, yeah, he's loud, but he backs it up. You know what I mean? I'm okay if a player wants to talk a lot, but they can back it up and they play decent football. Now, I'm not saying Zaire Franklin is a great linebacker, but he is a very good linebacker. He does have a lot of missed tackles, but he's around the ball every single play. He was pretty bad in coverage last year, had a 48.7 PFF grade, and he allowed a 105.5 passer rating. So in terms of pass coverage, was not good last year. He has had better years in terms of pass coverage, but we know tackling, having a nose of getting to where the football is going to be or where it is, getting to the running back. Last year he had 115 solo tackles. That's just incredible. It's a very good number, 15 pressures, and he had 4 sacks. He's a good linebacker. He's not great, but he's good, and you can't always have every part of your team being great, being very good, and Zaire Franklin is just very good. He's not great, he's nothing special at linebacker, but he gets the job done, and he does wrap up, but he does miss quite a few tackles. But you also have to take it into consideration. Look, he is in almost every single play. You have to look at how rough the defense line as a whole has been sometimes. So that's something to take into consideration. A lot more traffic going his way, but it doesn't excuse the missed tackles. But Zaire Franklin is a good linebacker. I know a lot of people don't like that he's loud. He talks, and I don't like what he did with the Pat McAfee situation. That was a bad look on him and the franchise. That not only hurt him, but you had Pat McAfee saying, he just didn't show up. Their season ticket holders, they just didn't show up the last week, and then Zaire Franklin going, trying to give, no one was there in the suites, but Zaire Franklin still went over and gave high fives, was like acting like he was giving high fives and there was nobody there. Just a little petty thing there. But Zaire Franklin did say sorry, take it at face value. It is what it is. He said, he apologized. You got to take it. But Zaire Franklin, he's a good linebacker. He's not great. He's good. But let's not get too mad at him, because sometimes you don't realize what you have until it's gone either. Just because he's not as good as Shaq Leonard, because Shaq was just a different animal. Just because he's not that doesn't mean that he's not good. Zaire Franklin is a good linebacker. So, yeah, we'll keep it at that. And then Jaylon Carlise is next. Last year was his rookie year. Going into his sophomore year this year. He looked good in a small sample size, but he's been primarily a special team player, but he's going to get a lot more opportunities this year with EJ Speed gone. With Carlise is going to get a lot of time this year, and this is a chance to show us what he's got. Can he be that next piece? Can he be that next linebacker to step up for the Colts? Because Zaire Franklin is getting older. He's been with the Colts for quite some time now, so it's time to start seeing, and plus you need more than one linebacker, so it's time to start seeing who can step up next, who can begin to show that they can take over. And I think Jaylon Carlise can do that. He has shown a lot of promise last year. He had 25 solo tackles and 4 missed tackles, 112 pass rating allowed, so that pass coverage wasn't too good. But he showed a lot in the tackling department, and I'm excited. I'm excited for Jaylon Carlise, but that's all I really have on him because he hasn't played with us too long. So we'll see what he can bring this year. If he can bring us some solid linebacker play, and then you have Seguna Luby. Didn't there was a couple years ago where he played a very small sample size once again, and he was not very good. He had a lot of missed tackles, compared to tackles, and compared to solo tackles, he had like the same amount of each. And it was like 6 missed tackles in a very low amount of snaps. So we'll see. I think he's going to remain a special teamer, and then same for Cameron McCrone. He's going to remain a special teamer, and it's really the same for the rest of these guys. Joe Bachie, I mean, he played some significant time here and there in Cincinnati, but not too much. Very rarely he played significant time, a couple years there, a couple games here and there, but he's another special team ace. That's what Seguna Luby, Cameron McCrone, Joe Bachie, Jacob Phillips, that's what all these guys are going to be fighting for, really, special teams time, so that they can try and excel in special teams, so they can maybe, take that time to defense and take that time to the actual linebacker position over on that defensive side of the ball. But you have Joe Bachie coming from Cincinnati. He's a familiar face to Lou Anarumo, so good pickup by Lou there. Jacob Phillips he played significant time in 22, and he was all right. I mean, he wasn't great. He was nothing special. There's a reason why he hasn't had any playing time since then. But once again, just another special teams player. And then Liam Anderson and Austin Jake. I mean, these are both guys that are just going to be fighting for roster spots, fighting for practice squad spots. So, yeah, that's the linebacker room. There's not really too much to go about it because there's really not. I mean, Cameron McCrone has been with the team for a couple of years. A key loss, I would say, is the one that went to Detroit. I'm blanking on his name, but he went to Detroit for special teams, and he was, I think it was, no. Let's look it up quick because it's going to frickin' bother me. Detroit, our lads, depth chart. Because he was really good at special teams, and I know as soon as I see it, I'm gonna be like, "Oh, come on!" But let's see, we have no, I don't even see him on the Detroit team, so I don't even know. I don't even remember. I'm trying to freaking damn. Could I maybe go to a Colts previous archive of the? I can't believe I'm blanking on this, but I am. Cameron McCrone. No. That's just the guy that. Oh. I can't believe I'm having so much downtime here. All right. Linebacker. Grant Stewart. There we go. I just probably spent a whole minute trying to look for him, but Grant Stewart was that guy. He was a good depth piece. He was a good special teamer. Was really kind of upset we let him go, but it is what it is. You lose good players, you get good players, but that's the name of the game. So that's the linebacker room for the Colts. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to this video. Quick little video going through the Colts linebacker room. Not too much to talk about other than Zaire Franklin and the potential of Jaylon Carlise, and that the other guys really have just been special teamers. So not really too much to go off of there, not really too much to talk about. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you for tuning in to another segment of the Horseshoe Hustle, your favorite Colts segment on YouTube, on the internet. I will see you guys next time for the safeties and the cornerbacks, and then tomorrow, which I'll see if I can get that up tomorrow morning, and then or tonight or tomorrow morning, and then I'm going to try to get a video out for training camp battles, because training camp starts the 23rd, which is tomorrow. So I will see you guys later on today or tomorrow, and appreciate you guys for watching.